I was in my early 20s, full of energy and eager to change the world. I had a deep desire to help people, to be a source of light in a world that sometimes seemed dark and chaotic. I believe that by giving, by being the kind of person who was always there to listen or to help, I would make lasting, meaningful, and I did. I made friends, and I offered them my support in ways I thought would be valuable. I was the one who picked up the phone when they needed someone to talk to. I was the one who lent a hand when they needed help moving furniture, or shared advice when they were lost. But there was a problem. A quiet problem that I did not notice at first. At first, this didn't bother me. After all, I believed in kindness because it was right, not because I expected something from others. But over time, I noticed that I was giving more and more, while my friends seemed to give less and less. They would take and never offer anything in return. And if I ever asked for help, there was a certain reluctance or an outright. I soon came to realize something crucial, something that I could not deny. The kindness I had been offering, while genuine, was being misunderstood. It wasn't that my friends were malicious or cruel. It was that my kindness had become a convenience, an expectation. It had become something they could rely on, not because they valued it, but because they could. My willingness to give was perceived as a weakness, not as a strength. And so the paradox of kindness revealed itself to me. The more I gave, the more I was taken for granted. My openness, my vulnerability had been mistaken for naivete, and my generosity had been misconstrued as an invitation to exploit my resources without consideration. It's a strange thing to realize, but it's the truth for many of us. The act of being kind is not always met with gratitude, and sometimes it's met with a cold indifference. The paradox lies in the fact that kindness, when given freely and without expectation, can be seen as a sign of weakness by others. But why is this? Why do people often misunderstand kindness? Why is it that when we offer a piece of ourselves, our time, our energy, our love, it is sometimes seen as something that can be used up, something to be discarded once its utility has passed? The answer lies in the deep-seated fear that exists within human nature. When we are kind, when we offer something without asking for anything in return, we expose a part of ourselves. We reveal our vulnerability, our willingness to trust others, to believe in the goodness of the world. And this vulnerability, while pure and noble, is often perceived as something to be exploited. In a world that celebrates power, success, and control, vulnerability is seen as a threat. We live in a society that constantly reminds us to protect ourselves, to guard our emotions, to build walls around our hearts. And so when we come across someone who opens up with genuine kindness, offering their support and compassion without question, it shakes us. It forces us to confront our own weaknesses, our own fears of being taken advantage of or betrayed. But here's the irony. The very thing that makes us human, our ability to love, to give, to forgive, is also the thing that can be misunderstood by others. Kindness, when offered without caution, is often perceived as something that can be easily manipulated, something that can be taken and not returned. The person offering kindness is seen as too nice, too generous, too trusting, and this makes them a target for those who have yet to learn that kindness is not weakness. So how do we navigate this paradox? How do we continue to offer kindness in a world that sometimes seems to misunderstand it? The answer lies in understanding the true nature of kindness. Kindness is not about being nice in the way we often define it. It is not about giving in order to receive or offering something in order to gain favor. Kindness is about creating a space of compassion where we can give freely, but also with boundaries. It is about choosing to be kind because it aligns with our values, not because we expect others to reciprocate. In the same way that the sun shines not because it expects something from the earth, but because it is in its nature to do so, we must offer kindness from a place of wholeness. We must offer it because it is a reflection of who we are, and not because we are trying to buy respect or affection. The key to overcoming the paradox of kindness is learning to recognize the difference between kindness and self-sacrifice. Kindness is not about giving away all of your energy until you have nothing left. It is about knowing when to offer and when to step back, knowing when to give and when to protect your own well-being. If we are to survive and thrive in a world that is often hostile to the vulnerable, we must practice self-respect alongside kindness. We must learn to give, but not at the expense of ourselves. We must understand that kindness, when offered from a place of inner strength, has the power to change the world, not by seeking validation, but by acting in alignment with our truest self. When we offer kindness with wisdom, we change the narrative. We transform kindness from a commodity to be exploited into a force that shapes our world. We reclaim its true power. I remember a day not long ago when I was faced with a difficult situation. I had been kind to someone who had taken advantage of my generosity, and I was unsure whether to continue offering my support. But I realized something in that moment. Kindness is not defined by how others treat it. It is defined by how we choose to give it. I decided to offer my kindness, but this time with boundaries. I protected myself, and I did not allow my compassion to be used against me. I stood firm in my decision to be kind, but I also stood firm in my decision to protect my energy. And in doing so, I experienced a profound shift. I saw that kindness, when balanced with self-respect and wisdom, is not something to be taken advantage of. It is something to be celebrated. So I leave you with this. Do not let the world's misunderstanding of kindness diminish its power. Recognize that true kindness is not about being nice or soft. It is about choosing to offer compassion, strength, and love, not because it will be returned, but because it is who you are. And in doing so, you will find that kindness, rather than making you vulnerable to disrespect, will become your greatest tool for connection and transformation. Kindness, at its essence, is an act of openness. When you offer kindness to someone, whether through a helping hand, a kind word, or forgiveness, you're extending a part of yourself. It's as if you're saying, "Here, take a piece of my humanity." That act, while beautiful, comes with risks. What if the person rejects it? What if they misuse it? What if they take advantage of you? These questions linger in the back of our minds because kindness requires us to lower our guard, even for just a moment. To the untrained eye, this vulnerability might look like weakness. For someone who has built their life around the idea that strength means being impenetrable, emotionally, physically, or even socially, kindness is baffling. They don't understand how someone can give so freely without expecting something in return. To them, vulnerability is dangerous, and kindness, by association, becomes suspect. In their eyes, If you're willing to expose yourself, to be open, then you must be naive or desperate. But here's the paradox. True strength lies in vulnerability. The ability to show kindness in a world that often rewards cruelty or indifference is not a sign of weakness. It's a testament to resilience. It's easy to build walls around your heart, to retreat behind a facade of self-interest. What's difficult is choosing to remain open, even when the world has given you every reason to close yourself off. When people disrespect kindness, it's often because they fear it. That might sound counterintuitive. Why would someone fear kindness? But think about it. Kindness challenges the way people view themselves. It forces them to confront their own insecurities, their own fears of vulnerability. Imagine this. You're in a room with someone who exudes genuine kindness. They're calm, compassionate, and unshaken by the chaos around them. For someone who operates from a place of fear, someone who equates power with control and dominance, this person is unsettling. They see kindness as a mirror reflecting their own inability to be vulnerable. And instead of embracing that reflection, they lash out at it. Disrespect becomes their defense mechanism, a way to protect themselves from the discomfort that kindness stirs within them. This reaction isn't limited to strangers or acquaintances. It often happens with people closest to us, friends, family, colleagues. When someone is unkind or disrespectful in response to your kindness, it's rarely about you. It's about them. It's about their unresolved fears, their unhealed wounds, and their inability to reconcile vulnerability with strength. The fear of vulnerability is deeply embedded in our culture. We're taught to associate strength with stoicism, independence, and an unyielding exterior. From a young age, many of us hear phrases like, "Don't cry, toughen up, or never let them see you sweat." These messages reinforce the idea that showing emotion or kindness is a liability. As a result, many people grow up equating vulnerability with weakness. They see acts of kindness, especially when offered without any apparent benefit, as foolish or even manipulative. This cultural bias feeds into the cycle of disrespect. When someone is kind, it's easier for others to dismiss them as too nice or a pushover than to confront the fact that their kindness highlights their own lack of openness. But here's the truth. Real strength is not about building walls. It's about building bridges, and kindness is the foundation of those bridges. The people who misunderstand kindness as weakness are often the ones who have been hurt the most. They've built walls around their hearts to protect themselves, and when they see someone without those walls, it scares them. Instead of respecting the courage it takes to remain open, they attack it to maintain their own sense of security. Let me share a story that illustrates this dynamic. A few years ago, I worked with someone who was notoriously difficult. Let's call him James. James was the kind of person who seemed to thrive on conflict. He was quick to criticize, slow to praise, and always ready with a sarcastic remark. Most people avoided him, but I decided to approach him with kindness. I wasn't naive about the risks. I knew there was a good chance he'd dismiss my efforts or even mock them, but I chose to show him compassion anyway. At first, my kindness was met with suspicion. James would scoff when I offered to help or make snide comments when I tried to engage him in conversation. But I didn't let his reactions deter me. I continued to treat him with respect, not because I wanted his approval, but because it aligned with who I wanted to be. Over time, something remarkable happened. James began to soften. He started opening up about his struggles, his fears, and the pain he carried from past experiences. It turned out that his hostility was a shield, a way to protect himself from being hurt. My kindness had challenged that shield, not by breaking it down, but by showing him that vulnerability wasn't something to fear. This experience taught me an invaluable lesson. When people react negatively to kindness, it's often because they're grappling with their own fear of being vulnerable. Kindness doesn't guarantee immediate respect or appreciation, but it has the power to plant seeds of change in even the hardest hearts. If the fear of vulnerability is at the root of why kindness is sometimes met with disrespect, then the solution lies in redefining vulnerability itself. We must shift the narrative from seeing vulnerability as a weakness to understanding it as a profound source of strength. Think of vulnerability as the foundation of human connection. Without it, there can be no trust, no empathy, no true relationships. When you show kindness, you're not just giving, you're creating an opportunity for connection. You're saying, I see you, and I'm willing to meet you where you are. This is an act of courage, not weakness. But to practice kindness effectively, we must pair it with discernment. Kindness doesn't mean allowing yourself to be a doormat or tolerating disrespect. It means knowing when to give and when to step back. It means setting boundaries that protect your energy while still allowing you to remain open and compassionate. The fear of vulnerability is deeply ingrained, but it's not insurmountable. By choosing to remain kind in the face of disrespect, you have the power to challenge this fear, not just in yourself, but in others. Every act of kindness is a ripple in the vast ocean of human experience. It might not immediately change the person in front of you, but it contributes to a collective shift in how we understand strength and connection. Remember this, your kindness is not a reflection of the world's behavior, it's a reflection of your character. And when you choose to be kind, even when it's misunderstood, you're embodying a strength that transcends fear. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to navigate the complex dance between kindness and self-respect, how to walk the fine line between giving freely and protecting your own well-being. But for now, let this thought stay with you. The fear of vulnerability may be at the root of disrespect, but kindness, when practiced with wisdom, has the power to dissolve that fear and build bridges where walls once stood, nourishing the land it touches. But without its banks, the river would lose its form, spilling aimlessly and ceasing to serve its purpose. Kindness works the same way. Without boundaries, it can overflow and leave you feeling drained or taken for granted. To embrace kindness with wisdom, we must first recognize the importance of boundaries. Kindness does not mean saying yes to everything and everyone. It doesn't require you to tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or ingratitude. In fact, true kindness often requires the courage to say no when necessary. Saying no doesn't make you unkind, it makes you honest. It allows you to preserve your energy so you can give generously to the people and causes that matter most. Think of boundaries as the framework within which your kindness can flourish. They are not walls designed to shut others out, but rather gates that allow you to choose who and what you let into your life. When you set boundaries, you're teaching others how to treat you, while also teaching yourself to value your time, energy, and emotional well-being. But here's the key. Boundaries must be communicated with compassion. A firm yet kind boundary can prevent resentment and misunderstandings while maintaining your integrity. For example, if someone repeatedly disrespects your kindness, you might say, I want to help, but I also need to feel respected in this relationship. Let's work together to make this dynamic more balanced. This approach asserts your needs without compromising your kindness. Let's dispel the myth that kindness is synonymous with weakness. The truth is, being kind often requires more strength than being indifferent or cruel. It takes courage to extend compassion to someone who may not deserve it. It takes resilience to remain open-hearted in a world that can be harsh and unkind. And it takes wisdom to discern when your kindness will make a difference and when it's better to step back. Kindness, when practiced wisely, is a quiet form of power. It doesn't seek validation or applause. It flows from an inner confidence that says, I am enough. When you operate from this place of strength, kindness becomes a choice rather than an obligation. You're no longer giving because you feel pressured or because you fear rejection. You're giving because it aligns with your values and brings you joy. This shift in mindset transforms the way others perceive your kindness. When kindness is rooted in strength and self-respect, it commands respect in return. People sense the difference between kindness that comes from a place of desperation and kindness that comes from a place of abundance. The former invites exploitation. The latter inspires admiration. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, creates ripples that extend far beyond what you can see. A smile, a kind word, or a thoughtful gesture might seem insignificant in the moment, but it can have a profound impact on someone's life. And when you practice kindness with wisdom, those ripples become even more powerful. Consider this. When you set boundaries while remaining kind, you're modeling healthy behavior for others. You're showing them that kindness doesn't mean sacrificing your own needs. And you're encouraging them to do the same. This creates a ripple effect, inspiring others to embrace kindness with wisdom in their own lives. But the ripple effect doesn't end there. Acts of kindness, when practiced consistently, can transform communities, workplaces, and even entire societies. They create an environment where people feel valued and supported, fostering trust and collaboration. And in a world that often feels divided, kindness has the power to bridge gaps and bring people together. To embrace kindness with wisdom is to recognize its potential as a transformative force, not just for individuals, but for the collective. Practical steps to embrace kindness with wisdom. Let's move from philosophy to action. How can we apply these principles in our daily lives? Here are some practical steps to help you embrace kindness with wisdom. Know your limits. Before you can give to others, you must first ensure that your own needs are met. Reflect on your emotional, physical, and mental capacity, and don't hesitate to prioritize self-care when needed. Set clear boundaries. Identify situations or relationships where your kindness feels taken for granted and establish boundaries to protect your well-being. Remember, boundaries are not selfish. They're essential for healthy relationships. Be discerning. Not everyone deserves your kindness. Learn to recognize when someone is taking advantage of you or has malicious intent. Focus your kindness on those who appreciate and reciprocate it. Practice assertive communication. When setting boundaries or addressing disrespect, use I statements to express your needs without placing blame. For example, I feel overwhelmed when I'm constantly asked to help without acknowledgement. I need to take some time for myself. Find joy in giving. Kindness should be a source of joy, not a burden. Focus on acts of kindness that feel authentic and fulfilling, whether it's helping a friend, volunteering for a cause, or simply being present for someone in need. Let go of expectations. Kindness is most powerful when it's unconditional. Give without expecting anything in return, and trust that the ripples of your actions will create positive change in ways you may never see. Surround yourself with supportive people. Build a community of people who share your values and uplift you. When you're surrounded by kindness, it becomes easier to practice it in your own life. Let me share a story that illustrates the power of practicing kindness with wisdom. A friend of mine, Sarah, is one of the kindest people I know. She has a natural gift for making others feel valued and supported. But for years, Sarah struggled with burnout because she felt obligated to say yes to every request. One day, Sarah realized that her constant giving was leaving her emotionally and physically drained. She decided to make a change. She began setting boundaries, saying no when she needed to, and focusing her energy on the people and causes that mattered most to her. At first, some people reacted negatively to her newfound boundaries, but over time, Sarah's relationships became healthier and more balanced. She discovered that when she gave from a place of abundance rather than obligation, her kindness became even more impactful. Sarah's story is a reminder that kindness and self-respect go hand in hand. When you embrace kindness with wisdom, you're not just giving to others, you're also giving to yourself. As we conclude this journey, let me leave you with a powerful truth. Kindness is not just an act, it's a way of being. It's a choice you make every day to show up in the world with compassion, integrity, and strength. But kindness, when practiced without wisdom, can lead to burnout, resentment, and disrespect. To truly embody kindness, you must pair it with discernment, boundaries, and self-awareness. You must recognize that your kindness is a gift, not a currency. So, I challenge you to take this message to heart. Reflect on the role of kindness in your life. Are you giving from a place of abundance? Or are you overextending yourself? Are you setting boundaries that protect your well-being, or are you allowing others to take advantage of your generosity? Embrace kindness as an act of strength, not submission. Use it to build bridges, not walls. And remember that by practicing kindness with wisdom, you have the power to create ripples of change that extend far beyond what you can see.